Do we shun the world? Or do we say the world has good in it? What is the truth that Chassidus brings to it? I mean, there's some Hayom that deal with it in a very philosophical way. I wrote a poem. It goes like this. Wingspan, her eyes, reflection. Good morning. Wingspan, her eyes, reflection. Good morning. Do the wings fly across the plane of your vision? And when you say that, that's seen as a reflection. So you have someone gazing upon someone else who's gazing off into the distance. Do we shun the world? The world is always the other. Always represents the other. So you can always translate these ideas into interpersonal messages also. But it has, philosophical impact also. Okay, that's an idea. We'll see how that relates to what I want to share with you today, because it's Chaf Vav Menachem Av, which we have a saying that has to do with the telling of stories, the importance of telling stories, and what it brings about. And then it takes me on a journey that has to do with whether we shun the world or not. So it's going to be related. But a lot of interesting things come out in this discussion. It's pretty lengthy, but it's a bit early. So maybe we can be patient. Good morning, Rabbi. The other religion shuns the world. You didn't embrace it and try to make it holy. Good morning. Right. I have sources about that and advice on how to do that. That's the truth, what you said. That's right. So if you're this philosophical person only, and you're gazing off into the distance, and then someone else, the other, is like trying to look for you. God says, I want to dare about titanium, and you're saying, no, it's only spiritual for me, and I'm not really in a relationship with you that's manifest in my world being physical, because that's where people stem from, at least. They can realize a higher aspect of themselves and tap into that, and therefore even somewhat reject. They could leave and then end up rejecting the physical part of them. It's possible. I mean, okay, you're not that guy. Fine. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to your brother, your friend, or your sister, whatever. The milkman. I wrote about this at length in the Two Fat Sages. Okay. Because that, to me, that's the person who's like spiritual, and then they have to be brought back into the world by the other. So here's the idea of gazing into someone's eyes and trying to get their attention. So that's what we do with God. We do the same thing with God. You try and get God's attention. I mean, hopefully God's not going to be that person that says, I'm going to stay up in El Yanim. I'm not going to come down to you. Or vice versa. I see that you're only spiritual, and I want you to be physical and kochzik and mitzvahs and giving tzedakah and charity and good deeds and the commandments and the Torah. That's what I want you to do, and you're only spiritual. So whatever it is, God has a relationship with each person. He expects different things from different people. It's not the same path for everybody, so I like to put it in both terms because they both apply. The idea is, are you going to use who you are to serve God or not? That's what it's always about to me. And that's what we're going to learn in the Hayom Yom journey that I'm going to take you on. It's 3 Hayom Yoms at least, strung together by these beautiful notes that I have in Hayom Yom HaMavur. So today's Hayom Yom is worth, well, you know what? Okay, no, let's just read it quickly. So the Rebbe Rashab says, Frierdiker Rebbe is writing, that his father, so the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe, in dem Yitzias Mitzrayim for Chassidus is voran the mitzvah von Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim Dibur. It's important to articulate the fact that the Jewish people have a story and narrative that constitutes their foundation, and their whole mission is that we came out of Egypt. The Exodus is something that drives our mentality as a Jew. And how do we interpret it here? They're tzelin chassidish sipurim. What does it mean to talk about the Exodus? Tell Hasidic stories, like stories of the Baal Shem Tov or the Rebbeim. Und der Herren dem Sipur in Pnimis, de Pnimis. And letting that story affect you in the very depths of your core. Okay? That's how important Hasidic stories are. Midarf wissen as jeder Sipur is a hayra b'chayim. You have to know that every story that a Rebbe is going to teach you, or a person that devotes their life to Chassidus is going to tell you, that is an instruction in your life. Jeder Sipur bedarf bringen amida teva and a chayes pnimi. Every story has to bring out a positive quality in you. For example, there's some stories that will surprise you very much. I heard a story that the Rebbe slapped someone in the face. Okay? I heard the story that the Rebbe turned down a guest at his house. And I've spoken about these things before, at least the latter. But if you don't understand it, how could it be? That means you have to delve into it more, because this is the point of the Chassidish Maaseh the Chassidish story is to bring out a positive quality in your personality. And what I like to speak about in particular, because everyone speaks about the other things, no one speaks about this. Good morning. Achayas pnimi, an inner zest and fire and roar. I like to call it a roar because to me that's the ultimate expression of, like, I'm just ready to prance or whatever the word is, prance. Or just, you don't even have to move. This is all about speaking, telling the stories of Hasidic stories, telling that, and telling about the exodus of the soul from, we're going to see, the limitations that we put on ourselves, the anxieties that we have, the fears that we have. Good morning. So those fears that we have hold us back, and they put us in an Egypt. And this is about going out of that. If you really believe that God's holding your hand, you could walk a tightrope across mountaintops. I mean, figuratively mostly. I'm not going to do it. Maybe, you know, when the Matrix comes real and we become Neo and all that, then yeah, of course. It goes without saying. And I'm saying in the stages leading up to that, before you take the first step across that tightrope over the abyss, do you have the bitachon, the faith in God, to know that He's holding your hand and you're going to do it? That's a chayas pnimi. I mean, I think that's what it leads to, at least. That meditation, thinking about faith. I think I spoke about that yesterday. The Eliyahu Navi within us. Oh, it's that ever intense. I want to translate that. It's gonna take me like a full page on my magazine if I do it, but I don't care. I think it's good enough on its own. I don't think I have to add much. Maybe an introduction. So I'll put it in a small font, right? Okay, so only people under 45 can read it. Every story has to bring, okay, I said that. Okay, oh, in a hiddur mitzvah. Oh, where's the chayas pnimi? Where's your inner vitality expressed? In doing a mitzvah in the most beautiful way, because you have a relationship with God that you want to get His attention. Right? That's how we led into this conversation. You want to get Hashem's attention. So you do a mitzvah, a hiddur mitzvah. You do first you have to refine your character, and you have to bring an inner excitement or enthusiasm about doing a mitzvah in the best possible way. If you knew that right now I'm binding myself to God when I'm putting the tefillin, you would cry. Tears of joy. That's all I have to do? It's all you ask of me, God? You know, people have to give more than just their left arm for God. Literally. Or all their limbs. Literally. People gave their life for God historically. Be thankful that God's not asking you that. Of you that. He's not asking that of you. He's asking you to go about your daily life and put on tefillin with ishmak, light Shabbos candles with your heart. Illuminate the world with the chayas pnimi, your heart into it. And the Herren dem darchen neyam fun teres chassidus. And then he adds a third thing. So you have to have a good character. You have to bring vitality into your service of God. You're doing mitzvahs. And the third thing is, You have to appreciate the beauty of the teachings of Chassidus. That's what a Chassidish story will do to you, those three things. Make you have a good character, bring out excitement in serving God, and appreciate the teachings of Chassidus. Okay, so here hopefully we're going to get to some of the incredible teachings of Chassidus on an incredible topic. The idea of, is the world something I want to reject, or something I'm okay to be immersed in a certain way? And what's that way? How do you immerse yourself in the world? Okay, you could just say, I'm putting on tefillin, that's my whole world. It doesn't mean just that. Okay, we'll get to that. Okay, so here, the commentary on this speaks about how we're defining the exodus from Egypt as going out of the limitations of the world. And I guess this is how to do that. But he brings other sources for this, okay? But there's also an extra mitzvah. Besides the fact of living an exodus, you have to actually tell the story of an exodus. Here we're saying that means Chassidish stories. But here we're also saying it means going out of your limitations. It defines more what limitations that will get out of, but any limitations you have. The fact that you're entrenched in the world. If you're immersed in the world means you're entrenched in the world and tied down to it, you're stuck there. That's not the Exodus from Egypt. That's not what it's talking about. But we'll see, we're not going to actually reject the world. There's two approaches, and we'll see advice on how to take the latter approach. The idea of not destroying the world, because when they went out of Egypt, they destroyed Egypt. So the Rebbe is fascinated. I think it's the Rebbe Rashab again. Fascinated by this idea. Why in the story of the Chumash, which is the foundation of all of our experience and the way we interpret our the things we confront in the world, our challenges in the world. Why is it telling us that in order to confront your limitations, you have to destroy them? Why is that the foundation of our whole idea of an exodus? Is about destroying the enemy, literally. They shattered their bones, literally. And in contrast to that, they had the mitzvah of Korban Pesach, the Paschal sacrifice, right? A lamb or a goat. They weren't allowed to break the bones, so that in the eyes of the Egyptians that walked by the alleys, that saw their trash and coming out of the trash because the rats ate through the plastic garbage bags, right, in Egypt, came out these bones from this Paschal, or maybe, what did they do with the bones? This is the way I understood it from the Rebbe explaining a Zohar. Oh, no, maybe just from the Zohar, the way I understood the Zohar. That it says in the Zohar that the reason why you don't break the bones is so that the Egyptians could see that it was their idol. They worship. I guess the idea of pasturing is like very geschmack to them. It's like, that's the ideal that they want to promote. Okay, they worship the Nile. They worship sheep and goats or whatever. It's their muzzle. Wasn't it Capricorn or something like that? Muzzle tle? What's that, Capricorn? Isn't Capricorn a ram? Isn't that what they worshipped? The Egyptians. So we destroyed Egypt. Physically, the earth, the world, the soil of it, everything, the structures, everything was destroyed. We demolished the whole place. God did it for us, right? He was our warrior. We didn't do a thing. Which is what we mean when we say Shvei Chamaskol ala Goyim Asher Lo Yeda'ucha. Pesach. Tell God, Shvei Chamaskol ala Goyim. We're not saying we want to exact vengeance on the Goyim that are our enemies, those ones. But that God should be the one, unlike our history with our host nations. That they were happy to be the ones to institute that. We're just asking God to protect us from our enemies. Shvei Chamaskol. You be the one to Shvei Chamaskol. I don't want to kill another person. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. Even Gentiles, even my enemy. You do it. So we're not quick to go out to wage war against our enemy. We smile at the Gentile in the street. That's the correct approach. Remember, we learned that from Pirkei Avos, Perek Daled. So in addition, okay, so Egypt is about destroying the enemy. So isn't that the message for how we should deal with the world? If the world is the enemy, that we have to escape our temptation from the world, the physicality of the world, shouldn't I just destroy it and sit on an anthill and roll around in the snow? I guess in different seasons you have different ways to do that. The anthill. So do you look forward to the anthill season? Is that what your Rosh Elul is all about, and your Rosh Hashanah is all about, and your Yom Kippur is all about? Sitting on an anthill? No. Be genuine. Recognize the whole. I spoke about that yesterday at length. Recognize the whole of you. This also gets at it very much, that you have to know your inner core desire. Okay? You can't be judgmental, perhaps, for that initial process of looking inside yourself to see what's there. Okay, you have to do an inventory. First, you start with what is there. I think I wrote about that this week in my editorial. I'll post it. Know what's there in the dark corners. That's what today's Yom Yom is about. So it's the same theme. It's the matzah, searching for the matzah. No, chametz rather. Searching for the chametz before Pesach. Looking for in the dark corners, lighting it up there. So Chassidus teaches us, fascinatingly, which is today's topic, that you don't shatter the world. Even in the Torah, the story in the Torah is about shattering the world. That's why we say there's Chassidish Mises. There's something in the panemius of the Torah, the inner dimension of the Torah that you didn't see when you read it at first glance. You didn't see in Rashi that it's there. The Rebbe brings out in all the Rashis, right? The depth, the amazing depth, even the most literal aspect of the dimension, the narrative of the story of the Torah. So here we're talking about telling stories and physically telling. So it's this idea of incorporating our lower attributes also, like speech, as opposed to we spoke yesterday, right? But we don't tell only the story of shattering. That's not what it's about. That had to be for one time. That's when God had to be our warrior. If I recall correctly, the Zohar Kodesh says that one is prohibited from actually slaying his Yetzer Hara. That I don't recall, and I have to see more. This might be because the Yetzer Hara energy is fuel for the Yetzer Hara. Slaying it, there's a beautiful thing. I begged people to find me the source, a medrash that says that the king will marry off his daughter to the one who slays the dragon. So all of fantasy, Lord of the Rings ideas, that that huge genre fascinates modern culture, has a source in a medrash. It's probably like 1,500 years old or something like that. I want to see that source. Or maybe it's a Zohar. Maybe I think it's a Zohar. Okay. So nowadays we don't destroy Egypt. When we talk about going out from Egypt, we're enjoined here to tell the Chassidish Mises, the Chassidish going out from our Egypt, our mitzarim v'gvulim, the limitations, our anxieties. Don't destroy yourself. You'll give yourself more trauma. Find the trauma. We'll see at the device. Okay, I'm gonna just jump around now to where it directs me. Okay, that's basically a paraphrasing. Let's go to where it takes me. Okay, it tells me to look it up in Chaf Hey Tavis. Here he speaks about whether we shatter Egypt or not. From the sayings of my father, the Rebbe Rashab, Yetzias Mitzrayim is the Areis Gain from Mitzarim Gvulim. Going out from Egypt means going out from your limitations. On Chassidus, that's the Exodus. On Chassidus is Eif Areis Gain from the Mitzarim und Gvulim von Welt. Chassidus is in order to go out from our limitations of the world. Okay, they have a weird punctuation there. They put an N dash there. Okay, why? I don't know. In the Hebrew translation of this. It's defining Chassidus as your pathway out of your limitations, okay? That's my translation. S is for Ran, a hefresh. There's a difference that the Rabbi Rashab notes, and this is what I was talking about. Yetzias Mitzrayim is an inyan von Shviro and Aziva. The exodus from Egypt was a shattering and a departure from. You're leaving it behind. You didn't stay there and make it your friend. Rambam did, incidentally. Even though there's a mitzvah not to return to Egypt, he returned to Egypt. Okay, there's a way to explain the halach. I'm not getting into that now. I don't know the answer. That's why I'm not going to tell you now. You're allowed to go there temporarily, so he wasn't there to settle it. Or maybe if you have a good job, I don't know. He was physician of the king. That's a pretty good job. So we know the story of Egypt as destruction and departure from. You're going to hit, okay, I don't want to say negative against. Okay. Therefore is men weg von Mitzrayim. For which reason we left Egypt, to show that we left it behind. Yetzias Mitzrayim v'chassidus. That's what I like to say. The Rebbe left us with a mission. Okay, that's going to be the answer here. We're not leaving Egypt, not in the Chassidish understanding of it. Therefore is a weg von Mitzrayim. Yetzias Mitzrayim v'chassidus is birur and tikkun. When we talk about the Chassidish exodus, that is refining and correcting. Yetzias von Mitzrayim and Gvulim. You don't leave Egypt. You stay in Egypt and fix it up. So it means rather, so what are you fixing up? The limitations that Egypt imposes on you. Ervas haaretz. Are you afraid of the nakedness of the world? Ervas haaretz. To the lowest dimension of your world make you say, I'm not going to be part of that. I have no shaykhs to that. I want a life of meaning. Or do you say, I'm not going to leave the darkness of the world. I'm going to say, how does God want me to encounter the darkness of the world? That's Chassidus. You don't actually have to leave the room when the lights turn off. Are you afraid of the dark? Or do you stay in your room and say, I'm going to go to sleep trusting God's going to protect me from this darkness? I might even stay up a while by the candlelight and learn Torah in the darkness. I might bring sanctity even into the darkness because there's a way to do it. There's a way not to do it. Chassidus is a pathway on how to do that spiritually. Okay, there's a way up halacha, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do in every area, whatever you're interested in. And there's an advice on how to encounter that area that halacha defines. How do you approach that? What is the way to interact with that physical thing in a way that spiritual, you're not going to be bogged down by it. You're not going to be swallowed up by the world. You're going to be immersed in the world and ultimately to be like Noah's Ark and lift yourself above the disturbing waters of the world and let that be the source that brings you up. It's a Yerida L'Tzarech Aliyah. So Chassidic Exodus is refining, correcting the limitations of the world. Das heißt, sein dich in Welt. Being in the world, bedarf sein in a Yetzia von Meitzer begol von Welt. You have to leave the limitations of the world. So while you're in the world, you say, I'm not going to be restricted by the world. I'm going to be able to walk across that tightrope across the mountaintops. I'm going to be able to do that. The world is not going to restrict me. I will be able to do that. Maybe that's not where I'm going to put my main emphasis right now. We're not fighting. I have to do acrobatics. But I have to be healthy, and I have to learn Torah, and I have to do certain things. I have to put in tefillin, you have to light Shabbat candles if you're a woman. That's how you get out of the Mitzrayim Gvulim in a very practical, halakhic way. Chassidic, spiritual way, don't have anxiety, don't have limitations. Don't say I can only do so much and not this. Say I am going to throw myself into what's required of me and know that God's holding my hand and helping me balance this terrifying narrow path, this narrow bridge. Arapnamen the Meitzer Gvul and their Herren den Emes. Taking away the limitations and perceiving the truth. What's the truth? As Welt allein is be'emes good. In truth, the world is good. Okay? I've had this debate so many times in yeshiva. I had guys tell me my first day in yeshiva. Okay, the same guy who asked me to give me a massage the first time I met him, okay? I don't know if he's from anymore, this guy. Okay, whatever. But that was really weird. That was my first experience. I have other weird experience my first day, and it was very weird. To be in a Baal Tshuva environment for the first time in my life, very strange. Don't offer someone a massage the first time you meet them, please. Okay? Especially when you're sitting on a bed together in your dorm. like no, it's not exactly the way you're envisioning it, but it was weird enough to freak me out. But with this weird guy, I had this conversation many times. He said the world is bad. The same guy who wanted to give me a massage was telling me the world is bad. It's bad. In its core, it's evil. That's why we have to shun it. You shun the world? Shun the world if you're led to do weird things like that. Okay, then you should shun the world for a while based on what the Rambam says, that when you're bent this way and you want to be the other way, then, no, you want to be straight rather, then you got to go the other way first to get straight. Okay, you're like I don't know what, a piece of metal that you have to, like, a flexible piece of metal. If you want to get it to the center, if it's bent too far this way, bend yourself the other way and you'll end up in the middle. So that type of weirdo, yeah, you should be thinking that the world is evil and shun the world. EFG. I don't want any part of the world. I mean, there's another way of looking at this, of course. You got to understand the flip side. It says Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he didn't have his pinky finger didn't have any pleasure in the world, and he was the wealthiest person in the world, or one of the top. He was on the Forbes top 100 billionaires, whatever. So here we have a source that says Velt Elaine is be'emes good. You want to know the truth? World's good. You gotta look a little deeper. That's what the Rebbe Rashab, who's speaking here, his answer to Freud. Freud says it's garbage inside your soul. Know it and just try and repress it or not repress it or whatever his advice was. But he saw evil in a person. The Rebbe Rashab said, no, you gotta dig a little deeper. You'll see there's good underlying that evil. That's what people don't get. This is what people aren't understanding. You don't have to reject what you're drawn to. Understand why you're drawn to it. Put it in the right perspective. When your best friend wants to say, you know what, we always learn Torah together every time. I kind of feel like watching the Super Bowl with you. Don't say it's treif all of a sudden. This is a bonding opportunity. Okay, maybe father, son, I don't know. You come up with a scenario and thanks. And I read the word thanks and figure how it applies. Thanks for sharing insight into new experience that the average person would not have insight to. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think most people have an inability. I have the same thing. An inability to articulate their feelings. I think that there are wise people that come up with the right ideas and are not able to explain why. I find that again and again. You could have a simplest person, like the classic quotation marks Zen Winnie the Pooh type, or the aloof professor type, also similar, or just a good person. They might not be able to articulate truths that they know are true, and if they were, that's really where it's coming from anyways. So yeah, I'd like to thank you for encouraging me. It helps me have the confidence to just speak what's in my head and in my mind. Valdas is doch. So why is the world good? Why was this massage dude wrong? Okay, but besides the fact that he was like twisted, okay, not appropriate. Okay, when we're not appropriate, if we're doing weird things, know that our ideas are wrong and therefore our character is wrong. A Chassidish story doesn't speak to you about an ox goring a bull, or whatever the case is. Your cattle. That's a nice metaphor about, do you like destroy Egypt? Do you gore the ox? The ox represents the earthiness of the world, right? The Sharabar. That is the earthiness of the world. The Yasan represents the spirituality of the world. Each one checks the other. We have to understand that, actually. They're destroying each other. The spirituality and the physicality destroying this. Okay, this reminds me of my Professor Leach, what he taught me in postmodern philosophy. I don't want to get into it so much. He just said, in order to appreciate that the union of opposites, like the ultimate truth, first you have to negate each extreme. Before you can acknowledge the paradox of both existing at the same time and therefore having a weave between them, knowing the right way to, the right time, it becomes a time-space continuum, of course. But the way to know how to navigate the world and know when to build bridges and when to write poetry, because you can't do only one. You have to have a weave of both. The only way to do that is both by saying, first you have to negate each. When you negate each and say, you know what, I'm not going to live for my physicality. I'm not going to live for my spirit alone. When they both say, you know what, there's a point behind each of them. And there's a place for each of them. Everything in its right place. And that's the Torah, really. I mean, that's the Torah. It tells you the right place for each thing. So the right time. You get to the time-space continuum again. And that's another sip of water. So if you're having the Shara Bar, the earthiness of the world, goring the fish, the spirituality of the world, and the spirituality at the same time, it's an awesome image. Slaying this ox, this giant ox with its giant fin, which is jagged. Okay, we're going to be talking again to that again and again. The jagged fin, it's an incredible thing. But here I'm saying that they both negate each other for them to be productive, that they could be used. Good morning, Yosef. For them to be used by the tzaddikim. So God wants to entertain the tzaddikim with this. To show that both are only important when you recognize that they're not important unto themselves. It's only when they both come together that they're important. So you have to say that they both don't exist unto themselves. You negate both. You have to crush Egypt in a sense. Hi. You have to crush Egypt in a sense. You have to shacht the Shara Bar. In a sense, you have to corrupt it. You even use a saw. You corrupt it completely in a way that's unusable. But it's usable. We'll see why. Because we elevate you. Okay, I'm not going to get into the saw. Well, how could you shacht it with a saw? It's a fascinating idea. That's another thing, okay? But here I'm saying you have to negate it. Once you negate both, you say, okay, now that I'm going to recognize the importance of both because I recognize that it all comes from Hashem. There's only one source. There's only Hashem. Einon Mavadei. At that level, you've negated everything else. Einon Mavadei. When you recognize Einon Mavadei, then everything has purpose. Why? Because you want to love what the beloved loves. You love God because God's everything. If you recognize someone's everything to you, what kind of incredible love is that? Someone's everything to you? That's the process of recognizing that that God is everything to you. Einon Mavadei. At that point, there is no world. So all the opposite forces in the world are negated. And you have this colossal clash of the titans, this gladiator spectacle to entertain the tzaddikim, to show, I recognize that you didn't do it for one or the other. You weren't doing it for yourself. You attached to the fish, you attached to the ox, whatever you're attached to, I know you didn't do it I know you did it for me. You were willing to negate both. You were willing to do the Akeda. I'm going to see that goodness in you, and I'm going to just give you the greatest celebration ever. Okay, I've written about this at length. I've spoken about this at length. Look it up, okay? Chamisha Sarba, I went crazy about this. The ultimate celebration. But here I'm suggesting that comes about by this process of recognizing that your interaction with both spirit and body is for God. And once you do that, when you say that these things don't have any value to me at all, I only believe in you, God. That's it. Everything is just my extension, my relationship with you. When you do that, and you negated the importance of everything, then everything becomes important because they're different. Because that's what you're loving, what the beloved wants. The beloved God Himself wants you to be in the world and bring light into that experience. And that's a power, knowing that the Creator Himself wants that. You tap into that power, and that's Chassidus, and that's Chayas Pnimi. Okay, I think I basically said everything, right? I get really tired after this. I'm supposed to daven, okay, but now it's early, nice. Baruch Hashem, it's awesome. Oh, there's some beautiful things here, though. This is when I go crazy and keep going. And he speaks why specifically in speech. Here I have those words highlighted. And he says also the Chassidic stories, you have to tell them, and then we learned about the three things that it brings out. Here is just reiterating some of that, so I'm going to pass over that. Oh, here it says you have to tell the stories of the miracles that God did for us in taking us out of Egypt. It's not enough to think about how God takes you out. You have, and he gives you miracles to get out of your limitations in your life. the bondage of your life, that you are breaking free. God frees you from that. Do you destroy those bonds, or do you make peace with that and make them your friend type thing? I mean, Yotes Kislev Amarim speak about this at length, about how you defeat the enemy with a peaceful war, and how that the ultimate peaceful war is when you befriend your enemy. It might look like a gladiator fight sometimes. But we have to express this, articulate this verbally also. The misogyny was not being appropriate at the time, but to give in his way is what a natural response to meeting you for the first time to him, to show you that he is a friend. It probably would be understood better if you got to know the nefesh of the man. Yeah, but that nefesh, I don't know, I wasn't ready for that nefesh at that time. I didn't know Kung Fu at the time. I remember a crazy story when I was in Venice. I had to be saved by my naivete that I met this producer, Hollywood producer, and I was very into art and stuff, and we were talking. Okay, I didn't know if he was trying to pick me up or something weird like that, but he invited me to stay in his. Anyways, I was naive enough to say, okay, I didn't have a place to stay that night because. Why didn't I have a place to stay? I was with my friend who was really, I think he was moving. I don't know what happened. But his mother had to tell me, you can't do that. Are you nuts? That's how crazy I was, okay? He didn't come alone. He came with a masseur. Okay, so that relates to this whole massage thing, so I thought about this. But yeah, there's people that you don't want to, Hashem wants us to be in the world, but not of the world. So we will be holy. So we will be able to bring heaven to our earth. Yes. I like that very much. So it says here that the teachings of Chassidus brought out. Okay, there's some more interesting things here. 1 second. Chayev Adam Leroy Sasatz Mekilu Hu Yatzim Mitzrayim. K'mavur B'Tanya Parshas Mitzrayim Chazeres Alatzim V'Vedas Hashem Kol Ha'es. It has to be continual, going out of your limitations continually. Teres Chassidus Gilsa Rama Muka Yeser B'Tzias Mitzrayim. But that's according to, well, that's a broad in Tanya. But it brought out what that means in a deeper way. Who Minnacha Oisanu. I don't know if it Menachem Oisanu. Maybe it's a mistake. Keitzad L'Tzeis Mi'em Mitzrayim Gvulim Shalanu. It teaches us how to go out of our limitations. Menacha Oisanu. It allows us to impress upon us. It rests in us. The idea? I don't know. I'm making that up now. But V'shal Ha'elam. To go out of the limitations of the world. But there's a difference between the first Exodus, L'zusha Chassidus Melamendis, and what the Chassidus teaches us, it says here, as a preparation for Mashiach. And it gives you footnote 6, and it tells me that it exists in other places, discussion, and thank you for not telling me where to look that up. It tells you in other places about this idea. Thank you. That's a real good reference there. I think they're waiting for volume 2 now to correct that obscure or non-existent reference. That's a tease. It says it's a preparation for Mashiach. Okay, I'll tell you the source. It's the Baal Shem Tov going out to the Heichel Mashiach. He went up to the palace of Mashiach in heaven on, I think it was Erev Rosh Hashanah. And he says, when are you coming, Master? And Mashiach told the Baal Shem Tov, when the wellsprings of your teachings, the teachings of Chassidus come outward. So the teaching of Chassidus is a preparation for Mashiach. But here we're talking about the depths of what Chassidus taught us about specifically going out of Egypt, the limitations in our life. So that is the advice on how to go out of our limitations, is by learning Chassidus and applying it in particular. That's what it's all about here. It also relates this to love between your fellow. It's always like the foundation. That really has to be looked into, but also it's the conjoining of speech and thought. Thought and speech rather, and speech is your communication to the other. So it's the same idea. And I don't think I have the energy to go on about all that, which I was hoping to speak about, at least in part. But I don't know. I need more coffee, I guess, in the morning to be able to do the marathon share. That's a lot of material, I think, anyways. It's another editorial. Yesterday and today, I think, are editorials unto themselves. What do I do if I get like 5 or 6 a week? That's crazy. I like to get one that really gets my attention, one idea. Okay, that was fun and exhausting to me. Thank you for schlepping that out of me. If I think that there's someone who wants to hear this, you know, even if someone was saying now, oh, it'd be hard for me to go. Just keep on blabbering. But I didn't want to just blabber. I had some more ideas I wanted to share with you. But things that, it's hard because I'm learning it on the fly. My preparation is very short. And it's not really fair to you, I know, but I figure this way I get to speak to you every day. And that conversation really inspires me. Makes me feel like I have a purpose here in this world. I don't think it's about to get a bigger house or a nicer car. I don't think that's what the whole world is about. So when you have a nice car, yeah, use that. Don't leave the world. Don't be this person gazing off into the distance, even though that might attract us in a lot of ways. That aloofness, that otherworldliness might attract us in a person. When we say, what was it? Wingspan. Her eyes, reflection. So she's seeing these wings fly over the horizon. She's just staring at the center. They're not just going across her eyeballs because she's just staring out into space. She's not even recognizing that. But she's also removed by the person that's actually with her, who's seeing the reflection in her eyes of the scene. And seeing how she's, don't worry, she or he, the other, is not just aloof from me. She or the other is aloof from the entire world. She doesn't even know she's thinking about deep thoughts, or he. Probably the other way, but I happen to be a man, so I think in terms of witnessing, usually, matronisa is usually, it's just a more, you have to identify. Oh, I didn't get to the whole part of refining evil, the advice for that. It's all about identifying it. Oh my goodness, I didn't get to that. Oh, and here's about how, and then a wise person told me this whole idea about there's 2 ways to dilute the evil in us. One is to pour a lot of water on us, or one is to identify and uproot the evil. If it's like water, we spoke about water yesterday at like some length. And there's this constant, that links it. He goes through like all the Rebbeim here. That links the idea of brotherhood. The Chassidus, it says, Chassidim are ein mishpacha. Dar Chassidus is, as alle Chassidim sollen sein wie ein mishpacha. Everyone should be like one family. And then it goes on to say, Chassidus is chayas, bringing life into even the lotov, the negativity of the world, bringing light into there. So to do that, you have to identify it first. Okay? And so when it says that you have to bring light to everything, that says Kaila Games Halei Taiv, even the negativity of the world. That if you put a magnifying glass on the evil, Rayim Eisei Hatev, and take a good look into it. Yedim B'diuk Esmiuseis Beli Maseponim. Rak Aznitan Lesakin Eisei. If you allow yourself to see something as it is without judging it, it says Rayim Eisei Hatev. You look well into it, but also you can interpret that in sort of poetic ways. You see it as good. You see it as it is, you'll see it's good. But you have to see the thing that needs correction. You look inside very well. You put a magnifying glass to yourself. That's what El is all about, right? Then you can fix it. And that's what Chassidus allows you to do. To correct that once you identify it. Or is that identified? I'm wondering if Darka Chassidus is also the approach of looking inside and being introspective, and then you have the ability to correct it. Okay. And Chassidus is Chassidus and Darka Chassidus. I don't know. That will take a lot of thought. Okay, and it goes on at length that we don't destroy. Okay. So you have to, it says, you have to illuminate even the darkness. This is what I wrote about in my editorial. Zaysemeres, meaning to know your individual Ra, Your inappropriateness, okay, that's the way we'll interpret it here. Your trauma, another way I used to sometimes translate it that. But here it means inappropriateness, means you're driven to something. Why? Kifishahu, as it is. Don't judge it at the time of looking in. That's the idea of befriending people, okay? You're befriending aspects of yourself. So that's how recognizing that Chassidim are one family. Also, it brings here the idea of each person inspiring the other, that when brings the Mitzvah Rebbe's idea, when two Chassidim meet each other in the street, they should ask each other about their service of Hashem. And then you have two godly souls, the two friends, against one animal soul, because they just want grub things. They just want physicality. But now you have two godly souls against one. So it says, when you have two against one, betray batal. When you have 1 and 2, there's 2 against 1 here. That one, the bad, is nullified. Because that's the idea, perhaps, of just bringing in more water to cleanse the bad water. But there's another opinion here. The other way is not by uprooting it necessarily. Here we're talking about by doing this, by joining with the other. In other words, looking inside yourself and seeing the other in yourself, and seeing that too is for the good. The Welt itself, the other, the thing that threatens you, that too is meant for the good. It's the Zaina that the king hires a harlot that hires another harlot underneath her. I've spoken about it before. Then you realize you're all on the same side. So really you recognize the goodness in the other and saying, okay, the physicality that I'm afraid of, that is going to be nullified or transformed here to become pure. There's an opinion in halacha that when you nullify an isser, something prohibited, it actually becomes kosher. Okay? So here we're borrowing that halachic premise. I don't know if it's a halacha l'maisa, if it has enough communal halacha. I don't know. But there is such an opinion, and therefore it has something we're supposed to learn from. And that's the ability for us. Okay, and it goes on. When you see the face of the king, then ba'er pnei melech hayim, in the face of the king's, in the light of the king's face is life. Meaning that even in the place of death, the light of the king's face brings life. You can, ultimately God's going to resurrect the dead. The aspects of us that are not capable for us to heal, He is going to heal those also. And I've spoken about that at length, that's going to be a process that you'll be resurrected with your flaws. And if you don't have to actually die and to go into this world of health, the ultimate health of the resurrection of the dead, you don't actually have to die to experience that, but you can just segue right into that through a process of God taking us by the hand, just like He's going to do to the person that's dead and revived, whatever exactly that means. But those illnesses in us, you are going to see that God is going to heal them. You're going to witness that. That's why it has to be recognizable. It's the same person. That's why God resurrects you with your illness. Or in this context, that God does not allow you to uproot your identity. Say I'm someone else, even though there is a halachic basis for such a thing. That about Tshuva says I'm Adam Acher, I'm a different person, Ish Acher. Not the same person as I was before. There's such a concept. But ultimately, to bring the tzaddikim to do tshuva is even higher. To recognize your truest identity is an idea of being totally rooted in God, to the extent that you just have to say, I need a turn to thank you. I have to say die. Okay, I've spoken about that idea at great length. So that's enlivening the dead. Okay, that is the shechita of the Shar Bar Levi Yassin for the entertainment of the tzaddikim, so they could eat it and get chayas out of the death of those two entities, the spirituality and the physicality of the world. Okay, I'm exhausted. Thank you so much for bringing that out of me, even if it was okay. Why am I exhausted? I was up in the middle of in the night. My son came home from camp at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I wanted to give him a hug, and it was awesome. So that was worth being a little tired today on this marathon run. So a day of blessings to everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope it inspires and you're able to inspire others too, because it's all about this whole Outwards. Keep on pouring it out and sharing it and lighting up the world, every aspect and dark corner of the world. Bring light and transformation and health.